the unexpected. 1 year on, after the loss of our dear friend and the suffering of our other, 2 of us remained in close contact. We were young, and normal service had been resumed to a certain extent, with shopping, boys, and nights out. "Go on and drink it one go," I was saying to her as the clock was getting ever closer to midnight, to strike 12, and we would be seeing in and celebrating the New Year. The music was loud, and we were laughing and dancing and chatting with all our friends in the pub. The atmosphere was good. It was a good night, and one that we wanted to do as much as we could to wind off 1 year and start a new one. We danced and drank a bit more, then ran about a quarter of a mile to a nearby pub to continue the celebrations and be there at the strike of 12. The 2 of us out of the town, like it had been that whole year, good friends, being young and just enjoying life. The next day we woke up, somewhat jaded from the night before, still in the clothes we had drank and dashed around the town in. We laughed about the previous evening and spoke about our plans for the new year we were now in. Hopes, dreams, resolutions, and maybe some regrets. Still high from laughter from our night out, I headed home for a few quiet days, swearing that I'd never drink again. Well, certainly not martinis and cherry B and baby shams. It was a few days into January, and it was my friend's birthday. I thought I would call her to see what she was doing. Maybe she had something planned, or was she still hanging from the New Year celebrations? The phone call that was to follow is still one that I can't actually believe. She was not there. Her father answered the phone. I asked to speak to her, but he was hesitant and said that she was simply not there. Obviously I inquired to when he thought she would be in, or to get her to call me. He went quiet, not quite sure how to answer my questions. I bubbled away, asking about her birthday plans. He knew me well, so why was he being so vague? Then he told me. "She's in hospital." I panicked. It couldn't all be happening again. Then he told me she had had a baby in the night. What? A baby? She wasn't even pregnant. I had been in town with her days earlier. She was a size 10. She wore what she normally wore. She drank. God, I made her run. What the hell? What could I say to him? I said that I wanted to visit her in hospital, but he told me that she didn't want any visitors, and especially not me. I hung up the phone and walked into my parents' kitchen. My mother was preparing dinner. She looked at me and asked what was wrong. I had gone completely white from utter disbelief. "Helen's had a baby," I told her. She stopped what she was doing. "She can't have," she said. "She wasn't pregnant, was she?" "Well, no," I said, but quite clearly I had missed something. And to hell that she didn't want to see me in hospital. I was heading there to see for myself. With my mind still racing back through the previous 9 months, trying to find something in my memory or mind that may have been a signal that I had missed. What kind of friend was I, not to know my best friend was pregnant and detect any changes? The past was giving me no answers, so it was only what was happening now that would shed any light on this new unexpected chapter. I walked into the ward. There to the left was my friend, looking naturally pretty as she always did. She was very lucky in that way. And there, next to her, wrapped in a tight blue bundle, was a baby. in my head I was actually saying, there's a bloody baby, a real baby. I do not mean that in a bad way, but that's how I felt, just utter disbelief. I walked over to her. I could see that she was a bit awkward with my approach. What was she going to say to me? Before she could say anything, I found myself just blurting out about me leaving her just a few days, and look at the blooming mess or mischief she'd got herself into. There's a blooming baby. But, oh, he was beautiful. We spoke for a while at the hospital, but it was the days and weeks that followed that the story unfolded more. She had been woken that night previous with stomach pains and asked her parents for help. When she described the pain to them, they said it sounds like you're having a baby. She did not know she was even pregnant. She had not missed a period. A few pounds she thought she had put on around her midriff, but she went into the hospital in those size 10s, produced a 7-pound baby, and came out in those size 10 trousers. I do remember how we did laugh about that afterwards, how that must have peeved off a lot of the other mums in the ward. It was never going to be the same for us after that. We of course remained friends for a long time after, but we were young and we were being pulled in different directions. She had a new priority and was a great mum, although completely unexpected and thrown in at the deep end. I was very impressed and proud of how she just brushed herself down, got her head around it and carried on. For me, I was still young too, and although my good friend was forced to grow up damn quickly, and I did what I could, I was around but still wanted to be going out on occasions and enjoyed a party and had other plans. So there we were, the last two of the original group of 4, both going down our new but separate paths to see what life had for us next. I think I was 15 then, from recollection. Taking the first steps. We all have dreams and ideas when we're growing up of what we would like to be and do when we are older. I still have them today. So often we can get caught up with planning the next stage of our development that opportunities that simply present themselves can be missed. But sometimes you just have to grab those and simply start to take the first steps on your career ladder or life ladder. Forget that it may be the wrong choices. You will always learn something, whether it turns out to be wrong or the right choice. And sometimes the wrong choice will lead you into the right choice. But you still have to take that first step. Doing nothing is not an option, unless you are daydreaming, which can also be highly productive and something I encourage you to slot into your day. I knew from the outset that I wanted to be my own boss and run my own business. Further education wasn't for me. I did look into various avenues, from design to legal to beauty, which screamed at me that I had no actual idea of what I wanted to do, but I had a bit of interest in it all. So I decided simply to get my first job and gain some experience. Then either stay or go and weave my way, gaining experience along the way. And as I reflect today and look back, it was probably one of the best things I could have done for me. My first job was as an office junior, a job which gave me a good overall grounding of work in an office and substantiated my love of paper. Having to file paper, make notes, send out product leaflets, have access to the mailroom, To be let loose on a postage franking machine was for me a dream job. All the things I pretended to do in my bedroom when I was growing up, I was now allowed to do and was getting paid for it. I had the opportunity to go on the reception and learn the switchboard, which I thoroughly enjoyed, but then would come to hate it now. Over the years, I have found myself liking telephone conversations less and less. I never seem to be able to interact and know when to speak. Thank heavens for the evolution of the email. I can once again freely communicate. I don't know why I have developed this fear or anxiousness. Something along the way has set off a trigger, and for now I live with it. Through my time as an office junior, it gave me the experience I needed and the confidence to take my next step into the area of design, which has really been a backbone of a lot of what I have had to do over the years in my own businesses. So my first steps created the foundation I needed to build the rest of my career on. But watch out, if you get a loose brick, it can all still tumble down. Become the person you want to be. You have nice hands. Have you ever thought of modelling? I didn't expect to hear that when I came into work that morning and sat at my artist's tilt table, cutting up artwork for an accounts company's new logo. We had photographers coming in and out of the studio I worked in various projects. I think I was age 18, about 17, 18 then. Anyway, I worked on visuals for logos and artwork, and my path with the photographers didn't often cross until this day. They had a product that they needed someone to hold, vitamin packets I recall, for the photo session to be held at nearby studios, but no model. Well, in I stepped. A new avenue and a new experience. And it turned out an avenue that I wanted to know more about. This avenue led me into several routes of experience, thoughts and feelings, pushing my comfort zone, the cold truth of modelling, and a good dollop of cynicism. In between my work at the design studio, I worked with the photographer to try and get my portfolio together. It was something that interested me, and a few people had suggested it, but I always felt like the ugly duckling. I gave it a go and did a few shoots, always a little wary of the stigma of the modelling world and the bad reputation that some photographers had. When you were asked to pose in a provocative way, or slip the shoulder strap off, or pop on skimpy shorts, the voice in your head was always questioning, was this art, business, or just some bloke getting his jollies? I pursued it for a while, never with any great success, thinking it was either me or the photographer or the job. My confidence was getting a bit of a hit, so decided to go to a reputable modelling school and agency in London, for firstly their opinion, and secondly to push myself into London, which seemed daunting and completely out of my comfort zone. The visit was brief. I walked into this office, which reminded me of an old-fashioned boarding school office, with the headmistress at her desk. She eyed me up and down with little expression. The tape measure came out. I turned to the side and back to the front. I walked from one side of the room to the other. She looked at me and, as a matter of fact, simply told me I was too big. I stood there in my late teens, a girl who struggled with confidence at the best of times, a size 10 or 12, who was fit for no purpose as a model, so it seemed. I left the building quite dismayed. What would I do now? I had in the back of my mind that I could do this, certainly as good as I'd seen some models in the magazines. I grant you, I wasn't a size 0, but I had curves in, at the time, the right places. I could hold the 3 coins in the right places down my legs, which is an old-fashioned way to see whether you have nice legs or if they're too skinny or bow-legged. Now I could hold half my purse. I still thought this can't be the end and decided that it was my confidence and the way that I presented myself that was lacking. I hadn't sold myself enough or offered a package that they could not turn down. This was my weakness and an area I could work on to fulfill my dreams and aspirations. To hell with them, their loss. Adjust your personal sat-nav. I walked into this tight corridor from a street off the King's Road in London. Other girls bustled by me, tall, skinny, strong features, long hair. What the hell was I doing here, and why was I putting myself through this? I know I believed in myself. I just needed to nurture what I had to offer, bring what I had on the inside out. It was a week's course at a very reputable modelling school in London. I had done my homework and had read that some of the key models of that day had walked through these doors, got the knowledge and experience, and then presented themselves to the world of top agencies. This was going to be me. Although looking around, I felt completely out of my depth, but kept reminding myself of all the people that had said to me that I should be a model. So here I was. Throughout the week, we walked up and down the room, turning to the end to present the outfit, learning to keep our heads held high and not to look at the floor to see where you're going, which wasn't as easy as it sounds when there are steps involved in particular. The more I did, the more I felt like I didn't know how to walk. Others were better. They nailed it. And there were others, to my relief, that looked like they were walking for the first time. Clumsy and uncomfortable. It's not a nice quality, but there is something comforting when someone being even more stupid than yourself. We learned about hair, makeup, lighting, photographers, go-sees, which are when you are sent to the potential client for them to tell you you are too short, too big, too ugly. It is a harsh reality that you are just a product. The client will have an image in their minds and they're just going to try and match it. So if your hair colour is wrong to start with, the road might end there. But you cannot take it personally. Once you get that into your mind's eye, you will do better. For me, it's just felt too harsh. I tried to not let it bother me, but it did. At lunchtime, some of the girls would chatter non-stop about what they ate, what exercise they did, what area of modelling was their vocation. I often sat quietly on my own or nipped out for a proper lunch which included actual food. I just couldn't find the confidence that I had been looking for with these people. Instead of bringing me out of myself, I felt it was pushing me further in. I just didn't seem to be able to connect. The week rounded off with a fashion show. My soft features on my face were heavily made up, as they explained it was needed for soft features and the lighting. I didn't feel like me. I stepped onto the stage and walked the walk and did my turns, all in the right places. But as the lights went down, so did my dreams of becoming an international successful model. But never my dreams of being successful. I liked myself and what I had to offer. I had tried something and learned that it was not for me, so I had successfully eliminated that potential avenue. I had proved to myself that I could dare to try new things, and the 9 to 5 still didn't appeal to me. So what was I to do next? I no longer worked at the design studio, so money was getting short, and I'd have to think of a plan soon. Where would I go next?